The Law of Prosperity, Chapter 2. Yea, the Almighty shall be thy defense, and thou shalt have plenty of silver. One of the greatest messages given to the race through the Scriptures is that God is man's supply, and that man can release through his spoken word all that belongs to him or her by divine right. He or she must, however, have perfect faith in his or her spoken word. Isaiah said, "My word shall not return unto me void, but shall accomplish that whereunto it is sent." We know now that words and thoughts are a tremendous vibratory force, ever molding man's body and affairs. A woman came to me in great distress and said she was to be sued on the 15th of the month for $3,000. She knew no way of getting the money and was in despair. I told her God was her supply, and that there is a supply for every demand. So I spoke the word. I gave thanks that the woman would receive $3,000 at the right time, in the right way. I told her she must have perfect faith and act on her perfect faith. The 15th of the month came, but no money had materialized. She called me on the phone and asked what was she to do. I replied, "It is Saturday, so they won't sue you today. Your part is to act rich, thereby showing perfect faith that you will receive it by Monday." She asked me to lunch with her to keep up her courage. When I joined her at a restaurant, I said, "This is no time to economize. Order an expensive lunch. Act as if you already received the $3,000. All things whatsoever ye ask in prayer, believing, ye shall receive." You must act as if you had already received. The next morning, she called me on the phone and asked me to stay with her during the day. I said, "No, you are divinely protected, and God is never too late." In the evening, she phoned again, greatly excited, and said, "My dear, a miracle has happened. I was sitting in my room this morning when the doorbell rang. I said to the maid, 'Don't let anyone in.' The maid, however, looked out the window and said, 'It's your cousin with the long white beard.' So I said, 'Call him back. I would like to see him.' He was just turning the corner when he heard the maid's voice, and he came back. He talked for about an hour, and just as he was leaving, he said, 'Oh, by the way, how are finances?' I told him I needed the money, and he said, 'Why, my dear, I will give you $3,000 the first of the month.' I didn't like to tell him that I was going to be sued. 'What shall I do? I won't receive it until the first of the month, and I must have it tomorrow.' I said, 'I'll keep on treating.' I said, 'Spirit is never too late.' I gave thanks she has received the money on the invisible plane, and that it manifests on time. The next morning, her cousin called her up and said, 'Come to my office this morning and I will give you the money.' That afternoon, she had $3,000 to her credit in the bank and wrote checks as rapidly as her excitement would permit. If one asks for success and prepares for failure, he will get the situation he has prepared for. For example, a man came to me asking me to speak the word that a certain debt would be wiped out. I found he spent his time planning what he would say to the man when he did not pay his bill, thereby neutralizing my words. He should have seen himself paying the debt. We have a wonderful illustration of this in the Bible, relating to the 3 kings who were in the desert without water for their men and horses. They consulted the prophet Elijah, who gave them this astonishing message. "Thus saith the Lord, ye shall not see wind, neither shall ye see rain, yet make this valley full of ditches." Man or woman must prepare for the thing he or she has asked for when there isn't the slightest sign of it in sight. For example, A woman found it necessary to look for an apartment during the year where there was a great shortage of apartments in New York. It was considered almost an impossibility, and her friends were sorry for her and said, "Isn't it too bad? You'll have to store your furniture and live in a hotel." She replied, "You needn't feel sorry for me. I'm a Superman, and I'll get an apartment." She spoke the words. Infinite Spirit opened the way for the right apartment. She knew there was a supply for every demand, and that she was unconditioned, working on the spiritual plane, and that one with God is a majority. She had contemplated buying new blankets when the tempter, the adverse thought or reasoning mind, suggested, "Don't buy the blankets. Perhaps, after all, you won't get an apartment, and you will have no use for them." She promptly replied to herself, "I'll dig my ditches by buying the blankets." So she prepared for the apartment, acted as though she already had it. She found one in a miraculous way, and it was given to her, although there were over 200 other applicants. The blankets showed active faith. It is needless to say that the ditches dug by the 3 kings in the desert were filled to overflowing. Read 2 Kings. Getting into the spiritual swing of things is no easy matter for the average person. The adverse thoughts of doubt and fear surge from the subconscious. They are the armies of the aliens which must be put to flight. This explains why it is so often darkest before the dawn. A big demonstration is usually preceded by tormenting thoughts. Having made a statement of high spiritual truth, one challenges the old beliefs in the subconscious, and error is exposed to be put out. This is the time when one must make his or her affirmations of truth repeatedly, and rejoice and give thanks that he or she has already received. "Before ye call, I shall answer." This means that every good and perfect gift is already man's, awaiting his or her recognition. Man or woman can only receive what he or she sees himself or herself receiving. The children of Israel were told they could have all the land they could see. This is true of every man and woman. He or she has only the land within his or her own mental vision. Every great work, every big accomplishment has been brought into manifestation through holding to the vision. And often, just before the big achievement, comes apparent failure and discouragement. The children of Israel, when they reached the promised land, were afraid to go in, for they said it was filled with giants who made them feel like grasshoppers. And there we saw the giants, and we were in our own sight as grasshoppers. This is almost every man or woman's experience. However, the one who knows spiritual law is undisturbed by appearances and rejoices while he or she is yet in captivity. This is, he or she holds to his or her vision and gives thanks that the end is accomplished. He or she has received. Jesus Christ gave a wonderful example of this. He said to his disciples, "Say not ye, there are yet 4 months, and then cometh the harvest. Behold, I say unto you, lift up your eyes and look on the fields, for they are ripe already to harvest." His clear vision pierced the world of matter, and he saw clearly the 4th dimensional world, things as they really are, perfect and complete in divine mind. So man or woman must ever hold the vision of his or her journey's end and demand the manifestation of that which he or she has already received. It may be his or her perfect health, love, supply, self-expression, home, or friends. They are all finished and perfect ideas registered in divine mind. Man's own superconscious mind, and must come through him or her, not to him or her. For example, a man came to me for treatments for success. It was imperative that he raise within a certain time $50,000 for his business. The time limit was up when he came to me in despair. No one wanted to invest in his enterprise, and the bank had flatly refused a loan. I replied, "I suppose you lost your temper while at the bank, therefore your power. You can control any situation if you first control yourself. Go back to the bank," I added, "and I will treat." My treatment was, "You are identified in love with the spirit of everyone connected with the bank. Let the divine idea come out of this situation." He replied, "Woman, you are talking about an impossibility. Tomorrow it's Saturday, the bank closes at 12, and my train won't get me there until 10, and the time limit is up tomorrow. And anyway, they won't do it. It's too late." I replied, "God doesn't need any time and is never too late. With him, all things are possible." I added, "I don't know anything about business, but I know all about God." He replied, "It all sounds fine when I sit here listening to you, but when I go out, it's terrible." He lived in a distant city, and I did not hear from him for a week. Then came a letter. It read, "You were right. I raised the money and will never again doubt the truth of all that you told me." I saw him a few weeks later, and I said, "What happened? You evidently had plenty of time after all." He replied, "My train was late, and I got there just 15 minutes to 12. I walked into the bank quietly and said, 'I have come for the loan.' And they gave it to me without question. It was the last 15 minutes of the time allotted to him, and Infinite Spirit was not too late. In this instance, the man could never have demonstrated alone. He needed someone to help him hold the vision. This is what one man or woman can do for another. Jesus Christ knew the truth of this when he said, "If two of you shall agree on earth as touching any one thing that they shall ask, it shall be done for them of my Father which is in heaven." One gets too close to his own affairs and becomes doubtful and fearful. The friend or healer sees clearly the success, health, or prosperity and never wavers because he or she is not close to the situation. It is much easier to demonstrate for someone else than for oneself. So a person should not hesitate to ask for help if he or she feels himself or herself wavering. A keen observer of life once said, "No man or woman can fail if some one person sees him or her successful." Such is the power of the vision, and many a great man and woman has owed his or her success to a wife, a husband, a sister, a brother, or a friend who believed in him or her and held without wavering to the perfect pattern. So here is my commentary on the Law of Prosperity, Chapter 2. And as I stated in the previous video, I love to read, and I often take out some of the things that I find to be particularly poignant for me when I'm reading a book. I highlight them. So I am going to be sharing some of the things that stood out to me in this chapter. And the first part of the chapter that stood out to me was when she said that Isaiah said, "My word shall not return unto me void, but shall accomplish that where it is sent." And we know now that words and thoughts are a tremendous vibratory force, ever molding man's body and affairs. Now, many of us often speak words offhandedly. We're not thinking about them, or sometimes we are thinking about them. But if you feel, right, you just put your hand on your chest when you are speaking. Like I put my hand on my chest right now when I'm speaking, and I feel the vibration as I'm speaking. And if you would, right, when you're in that space of anger or fear or wicky-wackiness, and you put your hand right over your heart, you could feel the vibration of the words that you're saying. And the words that you're saying are coming from your thoughts, right? And your thoughts and your feeling at that point are merged as one. And this vibratory action has the power to create. So I often catch myself. I am more mindful now as I move through my day and my space to think about what I am saying before I say it, right? I'm still working on that because I am always a work in progress. Sometimes I go off the handle. Sometimes I say things I don't mean. I do my best to try and catch myself. But, if you just put your hand over your heart right now, you can feel the vibration of the words that you're speaking. And those words, matched with our thoughts and matched with our feelings, have vibratory power, and they have a vibratory creation power. The second part of the chapter that stood out to me was when she said, I told her God was her supply, and that there is a supply for every demand. We are often not told that, right? As we have been growing up and we've been learning through our own processes, there's so much lack. But there is a supply for every demand. We must understand that, hold to the vision, and you must act as if you've already received it. One of the things we're doing here on the Indigo Room, if you haven't already checked it out, is that we are doing a series. It's a 30-day series. It's Assume the Wish Fulfilled. Assume that wish has been completed. Act as if it's already done. Praise and thanksgiving. And you can join us. There's going to be a link on the screen that you can join us if that's something that you're interested in doing. But you have to act as if you already received it. And we go through the steps on how to act as if you already received the item that you're looking for. And I love the fact that she was telling this woman to go to the restaurant, and this is not the time to economize off. I would have been like, yeah, I don't have that kind of money right now. We're going to get a glass of water. All right. We're going to get a glass of water, and, don't order too much because I ain't got the money. But Florence knew the power of God. And so she was saying, this is not the time to economize. Not right now. Not in this moment. Not when you are asking for the $3,000. We're going to act like we already have it. So you have to act as if. So join us on the APT series. Assume it is real. Act as if you already have it. Act as if it's already done. Praise and thanksgiving. AAPT. You have the aptitude to do this. The other part of, at some point one day, this is probably going to be a scripture for somebody. Maybe 110,000 years from now, they'll find these books and go, oh, look at this. These are ancient texts. But this one really hit home for me because it says, if someone asks for success and prepares for failure, he will get the situation he or she has prepared for. I cannot even tell you how many times that has been my experience, right? You say to yourself, well, I'm going to hope for the best and prepare for the worst. What? That is what we've been taught over the years. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst, right? So you have that in your mindset. I'm going to hope for the best. But I'm going to get ready for the worst that could happen. And invariably, the worst does happen because you've already created that in your mindset. So that is another powerful statement that I love. And, I have to keep reminding myself, not to prepare for the worst, prepare for the best. Dig my ditches. As you move forward in this chapter, and you may want to look it up on, the interwebs, on the internet, Google it, read 2 Kings chapter 3, 9 through 20. That has the whole scenario of when the 3 kings were in the desert and they met Elijah. And Elijah said to them to dig ditches. They were in the desert. There was no water. It didn't look like there was ever going to be any water. They were going to die in the desert. That's what they was thinking. Like, this is it, y'all. This is our demise. And Elijah said, "Ye shall not see wind, neither shall ye see rain, yet make this valley full of ditches." And, this brings back to mind to me when I first read this book. I said, I am a ditch digger. And so we're going to have some t-shirts and sweatshirts if you want to purchase them. You don't have to. I'm just saying because I'm getting myself one. I am a ditch digger. Just to remind myself to prepare for the manifestations to come. So how are you preparing for your manifestations? What could you be doing to prepare for the blessings that are to come? Like that woman who went and bought the blankets and was preparing for her manifestations. And it says, man must prepare, or woman must prepare for the thing that he or she has asked for when there isn't the slightest sign of it in sight. So if you are a follower of the Indigo Room, check out our day 7 check-in. It's on, it's on the YouTube channel. Check out our day 7 video, because I talk about when I had no money and I got my son into college and how we prepared for getting him into college. He didn't know that I didn't have any money. I didn't tell him that. But how we prepared, and I prepared him, and I prepared. And there was no evidence in sight that I was going to be able to pay for this college tuition, which was $40,000. Or you can listen to the video of how I paid for my medical bills, $50,000, and how I prepared for that, how I prepared before the manifestation came. And my good friend, I'm not going to say her name, but she knows who she is if she's listening. She was there. She saw what happened. She took me to the hospital, and we were able to get the necessary surgery that was necessary for me at that time. So check that out. The link is in the description below, or you can check out the video. It'll be at the end, and you can click that. It's the $50,000 medical bill payment. And you have to prepare. So sometimes you have to sit with spirit and be quiet. We have a lot of things going on in our mind, all kinds of wicky-wacky, all kinds of thoughts, right? Do this, do that, do that. Well, maybe I should do this, maybe I should do that. Sometimes you just, not sometimes, all the time. Just be quiet. Be quiet. Get your mind at peace and listen. And you will get a hunch or a lead of what to do. How to prepare. Ask Spirit, how could I prepare for this particular manifestation? I love this part. The next thing that stood out to me in this chapter was the adverse thoughts of doubt and fear surge from the subconscious. They are the armies of the aliens which must be put to flight. And this explains why it is so often darkest before the dawn. I know we've heard that term 1,000 billion times. It's always darkest before the dawn. What the hell does that mean anyway? Right? Who wants to go through the dark before the dawn? Well, we always go through the dark before the dawn. Every night. When you lay down, you go to sleep, you go through the dark before the dawn. New day comes, it's a new day. But you have to go through the dark. You have to go through the dark, period, point blank. Seeds, when you put them into the ground, have to go through the dark before they get to blossom into the flowers, into the trees, into the fruit-bearing plants that we eat. The baby in the womb has to go through 9 months of darkness. 9 months. It took you 9 months of darkness to get here. You magnificent being. It took you 9 months of darkness to get here. And then when you finally got here, the dawn. Okay? But it's always darkest before the dawn. It's always darkest before the manifestation starts to show up, because you have a lot of stuff going on in your subconscious. A lot of old thoughts have to be removed, and they come up. Child, do they come up? They come up like you would not believe, like a volcano. That's not the time to stop, though. That's the time to keep going. Usually, a big demonstration usually is preceded by all of those tormenting thoughts. Like after you get through that, then that's when the manifestation comes. So if you're going through the dark night of the soul, is what I like, I've called it, and what many people have called it. If you're going through that, keep going. Don't stop, keep going. I love this book. It's such a great reminder for me, but it's been one of my go-tos for the longest time. Okay, so the next thing that stood out for me was that having made a statement, when you make these statements of spiritual truths, again, these are old beliefs in the subconscious that are being exposed, and they are being, raised up out of you to be put out. It's like when, you have a pimple. I don't know if you've ever had a pimple on your face or a boil on your skin, and when it's coming to the surface, oh my God, it is painful. It hurts. And you just want it to stop. But when it comes to a head and it bursts, and then you get the relief, then it clears up. Same thing. These old conscious beliefs and old thoughts are coming to the surface. And when they come to the surface, they do not feel good. Can I tell you? It feels like everything is falling apart. And once they reach that peak, they come out and boom, they're done. Wow, you feel a lot better. That is the time. That is the time to stay in the praise and thanksgiving part. Stay in the thankfulness part, to rejoice and say, thank you, God. Thank you, Goddess. Thank you, Spirit, for riding with me. Thank you for riding with me. Thank you for getting me through this. Because trust me, I'm going to tell you, anybody that's ever done this work, the inside, it's an inside job, will tell you about the dark night of the soul. And this is not for the faint of heart. Yet, when you get to the other side, you'll be so glad that you went through it. And then you can help somebody else. You can encourage someone else. There's many things that you've been through in your own life and experience. And I'm sure that you can think of those times where you went through that dark night of your soul and you got to the other side, and you are able to guide someone else and help someone else. Each one to teach one, and you reach back and you say, listen, I did it. You can do it too. That's what we're all here to do. Have abundance, have joy, have love, have peace, have happiness, have all of the things that we desire. And I think, this is my thought, help another. So if everybody that watched this video, right now I think it's at 85 views, which is not a lot in the big scheme of things. But if you think about it, if 85 people shared that with another person, that is 85 times 85. And then those people shared it with another person. That's another 85. Now let's just magnify it by 2. And so on, and so on, and so on. So it says here that man can, or woman can only receive what he or she sees themselves receiving. You have to hold the vision, hold the line, hold the vision, and just stand steadfast in your faith and in what it is that you're trying to be doing now. One of the things that I've often told my clients when they come to me, or friends or family, or whoever comes to me for help, and myself, because I'm always, anything that I share on the Indigo Room has been helpful to me. And me helping another helps me too. I help myself. But I often tell folks to stop putting the time frame on what you want to be doing now, right? Some people say, well, I can't have this thing until I do A, B, C, D, F, G. Or it's not going to happen until 5 years from now, or 2 years from now, or 5 minutes. It can't happen, sooner than that. Jesus Christ gave a wonderful example of this. He says, say not ye, there are yet 4 months, and then cometh the harvest. So when we plant, people who plant, or people who plant gardens or farm, they know when they put the seed down that they have a certain time for the harvest. That's fine. That's about seeds. However, when you are planting something in your subconscious, in your spirit, you do not get to decide. Well, you can. When you decide that it's going to take this amount of time, well, that's how long it's going to take. It may take longer because you've determined that that's going to be the time. And it says, behold, I say unto you, lift up your eyes and look on the fields, for they are ripe already to harvest. What does that mean? That means that your vision, your imagination is now. Right now. And it is ready to harvest right now. You thought about it, you envisioned it, you see it, the manifestation is already there. It is now up to you to stand and hold the vision and demand the manifestation. Again, if you join us on, this is not a plug to join us on our app series, but it coincides with what we're doing on the Indigo Room. And that is assuming it is real within your imagination, acting as if it has already been done, because it is. It's done in your imagination. And staying in praise and thanksgiving so that the manifestation can blossom. There are steps. There are steps to having the thing you want to be, do, and have. Just like there are steps in planting a seed, there are steps and making that, watching that seed grow, watering it, putting it in sun, allowing it to germinate, and then watching it pop up. And it's not ready to harvest when it just pops up, right? It has to really grow and ripen, whatever it is that you've planted. Same thing. Same analogy. Within your thoughts, within your spirit, that has to ripen, right? That seed has to grow. First it has to germinate, then it has to grow. And the next thing you know, you see a little shoot coming up. That shoot doesn't have fruit on it yet. That seed is just starting. Same thing with you. You have just planted a seed, and the seed, by your thoughts, by your visualization, by you knowing, by you reading, by you lifting yourself up and raising your vibration, by you staying in praise and thanksgiving, you are helping that seed to grow. So don't decide, it's going to take me 10 years to buy my new house. It's going to take me 10 years to save enough money. I won't be able to go to college because it's going to take me 4 years to check. Listen, I have done so many different things in my own experience. I catch myself too. Well, I need to get this, I need to get that. Yeah, you know what? There is no power like God power. And when you tap into your God power, the manifestations and the things that you can do are unbelievable. Unbelievable. So the last thing I want to remind you all is, one gets too close to his own affairs and becomes doubtful and fearful. That is true. When you are working on manifesting prosperity, manifesting good health, manifesting any daggone thing, in the beginning, your doubt, your fear comes in, and you waver. You waver to the left, you waver to the right. There's this great song by Fred Hammond, and one of the lyrics in the song is, "Success is in your hands, follow my plans." And it talks about, don't waver to the left, don't waver to the right. And that is so hard to do sometimes. It is so hard to do. You get off track, you get scared, you get nervous because you're like, oh my goodness, I need this right now, whatever. And when you get off track, you can derail your whole manifestation. Just think about it. If you went and dug up a seed before it was ready to harvest, it's gonna die. It's not gonna make it. You're not gonna have no corn, you're not gonna have no tomatoes, you're not gonna have no peppers, you're not gonna have no flowers, you're not gonna have any fruit. It will not bear fruit. Because you went and dug it up. If you think about going in and baking a cake, you keep opening up that oven, that cake is gonna fall flat eventually. Because you did not leave it alone and let it bake. You just had to keep checking it. Let me just check on it. So that's when fear and doubt, can take over. However, if you have someone, oftentimes I tell people not to talk about the thing that they're trying to manifest. Why? Because 9 times out of 10, the person that you will talk to will talk you out of it. If you are fearful or doubtful, a friend who is of the same mindset will be able to help you stay the course. Stay the course. Keep your direction. And 9 times out of 10, that person will be able to help you because you are not afraid and you don't have any fear. We can help each other, right? We all are here to help each other. I just love this one because it says it's so much easier to demonstrate for someone else than oneself. So a person should not hesitate to ask for help if he or she feels himself or herself wavering. I always like to add the her in there because, a lot of times when these books are written, they only talk about the he part. Whatever. But that is often the case. When you have a friend or a family member that stands behind you, a wife, a husband that stands, what? That boosts you up. You are the winds beneath my wings. I hope you enjoyed this particular chapter. It took me quite a bit of time to get this second chapter out because I was having a little bit of difficulty with my sound. I finally got it together. But I hope that this encourages you, and we will be getting into the third chapter of the game of life and how to play it, which is the power of the word.